Welcome to the Hotel Moment Podcast, presented by Revinate, the podcast where we talk to leaders in the hospitality industry. If you're looking for trends, perspectives, and stories from leaders in travel and hospitality, you're in the right place.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Hotel Moment Podcast. I am your host, Karen Stevens, the Chief Revenue Officer of Revinate. And today I am delighted to be joined by Sunish, who is the Vice President of E-commerce and Revenue Management at Chroma Hospitality. Welcome, Sunish.
Hey, Karen. Good morning.
Good morning. I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. A lot of hoteliers, we always aspire to move more and more bookings direct. And I cannot wait to share with our audience your story about how you did that 100% across the board. So I cannot wait to dig in. It's big stuff. But before we do that, first of all, where are you calling in from, Sunish? Where are you based?
Well, I'm based out of Philippines, Manila, and I've been living here for the last 12 years. It's a beautiful city to live in.
Wonderful. And can you tell us a little bit about Chroma Hospitality?
Well, Chroma Hospitality is a homegrown Filipino brand of hotels. It's owned by one of the biggest conglomerates in the Philippines called Philinvest. So, who are into real estate and all that. And we are in the hospitality arm of Philinvest. We manage around 7 to 8 properties in the Philippines at the moment, and a few brands. One is our 5-star brand, which is called Crimson Hotels and Resorts, under which we run a city property in Alabang, which is part of Manila. Then we also run 2 resort properties, one in Mactan, Cebu, one in Boracay. Both are really nice 5-star resorts. Some of the I think even celebrities in the country like to live here. Even during the pandemic, we had almost every week there were celebrities staying at Crimson Boracay as an example, right? And then we have a 3/4-star brand, which is called the Quest brand, under which we have another 4 properties. And we also manage a golf course in the Philippines, which is called Mimosa Golf Course. And I'm very proud to say that since 2016 that we took over this golf course, is the first and the only golf course in the Philippines to have its own app and booking engine for the golf course where people can go and book their own golf and book directly and do everything on the app itself. So it was all done in-house by me and the team.
That is fantastic. You don't often hear about hotel companies doing their own technology build. So very cool. All right. Well, I'm excited to jump into the topic at hand. But before we do that, I have 5 questions I ask all my guests. So if you'll indulge me, I'll ask you a couple questions to get us started.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So the first question, when did you start working the industry? And do you remember your very first day on the job?
Yeah, I think it was year 2001. And I would say I was quite nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I was not sure whether the 3 years of hospitality management and the trainings which I got were enough to prepare me for that. But obviously, it's been a long journey from that unsure day at the front desk, working as a front desk agent 22 years back to where I am today. I think it's a long journey and it's a fulfilled journey.
Wonderful. It's so cool. We have so many guests that started their careers in the front desk or in the restaurant all the way through. So it's exciting to have another person who started that journey. That's great. So the second question, what is the most uplifting moment so far in your career?
Well, as a hotelier, especially in revenue management, e-commerce, there could be many because there could be a moment where we achieved the biggest revenue, for example, in the company, right? In 2018, we crossed $2 million in online revenue. But in 2019, we even further crossed it and went beyond $3 million, right? Only in online revenue. But obviously, I think it was during the COVID period that it was that uplifting moment, because what happened in 2020 is that our online revenues and everything which you can really revenue manage as a revenue management vice president were all gone. So there were no opportunities for us. And then suddenly in 2021, the company, which our main company, Philinvest, they were launching their own REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust. So it is called the Phil REIT. And it gave me an opportunity because they came to me as an expert and said, why don't you head this project for the whole digital marketing? So I created their website, I created all their ads. It was just a period of 3 months in which we had to do everything because within the next 60 days, the REIT was supposed to be launched. And there was a period of 7 days window. Within that 7 days, you have to make sure that it's all sold out, right? People are buying it. And we were able to reach 27 million people in the Philippines in the within a period of 30 days from after the website was launched and everything was launched. And the product got oversubscribed. And it was good enough because I thought that I could only do these things for hospitality because I've always been into hospitality. I'm a hospitality guy who went into tech at some point because of e-commerce, right?
Wow, that's so cool. What a interesting problem to have when you're oversold. You're wondering if it's even going to work, and then the next thing you know, you're like, 27 million people. Wow, that's very cool. Okay, so this is more on a personal level. So, what is your most striking experience so far in terms of a food experience or a stay or a holiday that you personally have taken in the Philippines or elsewhere?
I guess in the last few years, I could have said India, but again, I've only experienced India when I was very young. I think in the many years of travel, especially in the Southeast Asia, I would say Vietnam, whether it's the food, the culture, whether it's having a simple drip coffee in the morning or 7 in the morning having a hot pho, which is their hot noodle soup, which really amazes you because every sip you have a different herb you can smell. Or in the 3 in the morning after having drinks, going over to a 90-year-old woman who gives you a piece of banh mi, which is the bread from Vietnam with different fillings in there and which tastes the most amazing in the world, right? So that's why I would say Vietnam, even today, because I've been living out of Vietnam for 13 years. 13 years back, I used to stay in Vietnam. In fact, my wife is even Vietnamese. My kids all carry a Vietnamese passport. I have three boys. But even today, I think every 3, 4 months we go to Vietnam just to experience that again, right?
That's wonderful. It's ironic. This week, while we're recording this, members of our sales team are in Hanoi for a conference. And the first thing our vice president of sales said to me was, the food lives up to the hype. It's amazing. so, so that's got to be on my list. That's fantastic. Okay, now you alluded to this question before when you were talking about your luxury brands, the properties that you have. So, fourth question, have you met any celebrities while you've been in the trenches in hospitality?
I'm not sure if for everybody he's a celebrity, but for me he is. Mr. Bill Haneke, William Haneke, the founder and chairman of Minor Hospitality or the Minor Group, the one who heads Anantaras and those. I used to work for him in the year 2007. I was managing the revenue management for one of the Anantaras and the Naladu properties. There are three properties at that time, one of the most luxurious properties in Maldives at those time. And I was managing the revenue management for the three islands together. And over those times, I met him few times. He used to come in his private helicopters from Thailand or from Sri Lanka because one of his partners, Mr. Rajkaria, is a Sri Lankan as well. So why I would say he's a celebrity, the way he carries himself, and the story he has, which really inspires me as a hotelier, right? Because him coming in 1960s to Thailand with $5,000 in his pocket, starting an office cleaning company as an American, cleaning up the offices by himself. And by 1976 or 79, he started the Mina International Group, which was few hotels. And today he has more than 100 hotels, I think. He has few other businesses as well under that. I think even they have ice cream brands and pizza brands and all that. You go over all over Thailand, you will see those, right? And now he's even spreading his across, right, with different brands. So that's why I would say that he's one of those guys. I even remember today It was a Christmas Eve 2007, and I just finished sending out my next 3 months forecast as a revenue manager for the group. I was sending out the 3 months forecast for the Maldives properties. And I thought that it's a Christmas Eve. I think that almost everybody who used to work with me in the corporate office, the ones who used to receive it, including the GM and everyone, was either European or American, and they were all going to celebrate Christmas. So I didn't expect that anyone will reply to me. But 7:30 in that evening, I get in 3 minutes of sending it out, I get an email from Mr. Haneke asking me why this date has this type of occupancy, why this date has this type of ADR, and what do you think is going to happen in the next month with the forecast being below by 20%? What are we going to do about it?
So attention to visionary and attention to detail.
Yes, absolutely. And that to the Christmas Eve. And so also you would really think that that's a kind of vision which brings people places or brings companies to places.
To great places. Wow, that's a great one. That's a great one. Okay, last question. Who are the women at work you have been most inspired by?
I guess, again, in that I would go really to my current workplace because I would really say it will be our president and chairperson of Philinvest Group, which is Mrs. Josephine Kotianan Yap. She heading a very big company because the company is into real estate, the company is into development, company is into hospitality. Actually, hospitality is like 3% of their entire business only. They even own banks. We have East West Bank with almost 400 or 500 branches within the Philippines already. Plus, they are also into power generation. So they develop their own power. So they are one of the power developing companies in the Philippines as well. So knowing her for the last 12 years, knowing even the Crimson Boracay, our most luxurious property in Boracay, which I was talking about, I still remember 12 years back coming into the company and sitting with her in meetings from my first week at work, talking about what her vision for Boracay is, how she was talking about at that time about barkadas, right? Barkada group of young people traveling together, and how she would like that barkada people to come in. So that's why she wanted, for example, two bigger size of twin beds in the room instead of smaller twin beds, so that two friends could share in case there's some barkadas coming in. And so that's just one example, right? Or well, with her vision with Phil Reed, putting the buildings into a REIT or the real estate investment trust to make sure that the revenue is always flowing into the business, especially in the periods when COVID came in, right? So I'm very proud as to be in this company during a period like COVID that we did not had to, whether it was hospitality or whether it's any other fields, not a single field, we had to really ask anybody to be out of the company. For example, hospitality was the most affected one. So what happened is that even in our case, from Chroma, for example, I had to just send some of my team members over to other parts of Philinvest, right? But they made sure that not a single person was losing their job. And that's why I think it's very important to have someone like Mrs. Josephine Gotianan to be in that leadership helm to make sure that we were safe, we were taken care of, and we never felt that we would be not safe during a period like that. Even 2020, December 2020, I think one thing was that COVID was affecting us and the business was not there. And there was a little bit of business which came to our properties in December because a lot of locals wanted to travel at that time. And fortunately, the COVID during that time was a bit controlled in the country. So at least domestic wise, you could travel with the test and all that. So at Crimson Mactan, which is another one of our resort properties, we had this lot of people coming, staying over and all that. And that is the night, it was the 17th of December, I think, or the 16th of December to 2020 that we had one of the biggest typhoons in the country. And that typhoon destroyed the resort 80%. Even my country manager, my boss, James Montenegro, he was staying there with his family. And fortunately, he came out of his villa, which was right on the edge of the ocean, 5 minutes before the whole roof fell down. So it was so bad. And 70% of the resort went down. I still remember 4 o'clock in the morning that day, Mrs. Yap was calling me already on the phone. She was calling everybody in the hospitality. She was putting together people from the fill-in west side, which was her office side, right? All the communication people. She was setting them up so that they can help us to make sure that because roads were closed going to the resort, everything was closed. But she was there making sure that everything is well coordinated. She sent people over. She was coordinating all of these things by herself. So you could see someone with that big position. She's someone who is even bigger than the CEO of a big company, chairperson, and she is having that responsibility. I think that's where I salute her as a woman, and I'm very proud that we have a woman head who is managing this company right from the top.
Wonderful. Wow. She just sounds like a powerhouse. So, and a compassionate powerhouse at that. So that's a fantastic answer. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit here and let's talk about the competitive booking landscape. So, in your role, you're focused primarily on maximizing revenue, of course, but can you paint a picture for me from your point of view of what the environment is like today? We're post COVID today. Finally, how do you feel about the competitive booking landscape?
I think we have seen much better picture over the last 12 months because 2020 we were always talk about that, oh, this COVID is going to be there for 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. It continued up to a stage where Philippines was close to business, both domestic as well as international. So the only kind of business as a hospitality company or hotels we could get was the quarantine business coming in, which was obviously not enough in terms of both ADR as well as occupancy wise to really make sure that the hotels can really run at full GOP levels and all that. But obviously last 12 months to 18 months, we have seen things improving. Philippines as a economy is improving. We have seen that COVID is very much under control. We over the last 6 to 9 months, I think we haven't worn any mask in the public or anywhere else, right? But in terms of the business, I think we have seen that the domestic business has continued to be very strong. And over the last 6 months, there is international business starting to come in. But if I look at the picture over the last 4 months, I think we could say we are at a level of 60% to 65% of where we were in 2019. But again, 2019, if you go back, 2019 was the best year for most of the hotels in Southeast Asia, not only for the Philippines. For us, obviously, it was the best year for as a hotel group. So if we say that we have reached 80% already, that means we are already at a very good stage. We are already at 2018, right, levels, which are very good. So in terms of the market, we could say we are already seeing that most of the wholesalers have started giving back their rates to the online. So that has started again, which means that there is demand already out there. We are also seeing that that demand has been mostly taken over by the OTAs because OTAs are becoming strong again. There's a lot of advertisement dollars which have been put into by both Expedia, Agoda, and Booking.com. So obviously, if you look at that, yes, the demand business is coming back. So everybody is starting to be in a competitive way already. All the hoteliers have started to put in their ad money already. So I can see that everywhere, even for us, I think we have started putting in the ad money already for all of our hotels at almost 100% of where we were at 2019.
Okay, so you mentioned something. I assume most of our listeners are hoteliers or know something about hospitality, but you mentioned a little nugget in there about wholesalers making rates available online. So can you just give the 30-second description of what the issue is and why that's a problem for hoteliers?
I think it started with meta search engines. Everybody has to understand what is meta search, because when you go talk about meta search, many years back, when there were only hotels and OTAs, it was much more easier, because you look at 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 OTAs, and you can already compare and say, okay, this is where my rates are. These are all my rates. But around 2016, 2017, meta search became very prominent. So meta search are people like kayaks, people like hotels combined, Revatos, and all that. Even Google has become a meta search almost now. And one of the main things which they do is that they take their reads from thousands of sources. And this could, anybody who has an API connectivity to one of the big agents and one of the big meta search engines will be able to take their rates, whether it's contracted, whether it's a travel agency rate, whether it's a OTA rate, doesn't matter. So, for example, your contracted rate will be $70, your online rate is $120. Does not matter, because somebody could be taking the contracted rate given to the wholesaler, selling it to one of these agents who has a big API connectivity to one of the meta search engines. And there you go. Your rates are going to appear at $80, $90 versus your online rate on your brand website at 120 on booking.com, Agoda, or anywhere else. Everybody's going to see that big disparity, right? So when did it become bigger? It became bigger when 2019 onwards, these big agents like OTAs like Expedia, Agoda, Booking.com, they said they're losing all their direct business to these meta search engines. So they were putting a direct connectivity as well, and nobody was buying them. They were losing it out. So what they did, they started buying from the wholesale. So if you think about all the bigger wholesalers in the picture, which is Hotel Beds, GTA, who has also become Hotel Beds, DOTW, Mickey Travel, all of them are today having an API connectivity to Agoda, Expedia, Booking.com, everybody. So today you don't know where your rates are being sold.
Right. And I think that's the crux of the issue, because those wholesaler rates go out and they're resold, unbundled, repackaged, sold on different APIs. Of course, you have to have parity clauses in all of your contracts if you want to distribute online. You have to maintain parity with your own website. You're not even in parity with your own website against the vendors who are telling you to be in parity. So it really has become a spaghetti junction of a mess. And I think a lot of hoteliers feel that pain, no matter what market you're in. So tell us, what was your approach to kind of unwinding that? It sounded like you started with one property, but please take our listeners through how your approach was to kind of combat that issue.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'll start with 2019, because that's when it really started becoming very big for us, because we started seeing our online revenues growing by huge percentages. So one thing which we were seeing was that even though the numbers are growing, the profitability was not growing, because we were giving big amounts out there as commissions. The commissions were big. In Philippine pesos, we were paying millions every month in commissions. And when we look also at the offline picture, we were saying that offline agents were also growing with that. And we were saying, how is offline agents growing? When you look at the overall Philippines distribution, it's mostly online, which has been distributed. So, which means that most of that business which has been purchased on an online platform. So, why is it that offline is also growing by exponential numbers? And then we started doing more and more test bookings. I created in 2019 a department under e-commerce, which was called Disparity Department. So this parity department, I had two people, one supervisor, one agent, working in that, make sure that they can check on different IP addresses. They were given all the tools. And the only thing they do for all our 6, 7 properties is sit down there and make sure that wherever they see parity, either they take screenshots or they can do test bookings together with me. So I'll help them to do the test booking with my own credit cards. And then making sure that we take it forward to both the sales team as well as to OTAs who are connected. So that was one thing. But 2020, with all those things happening, we had to close down the parity department. And obviously, 2021, we started seeing that the business was slowly coming in. And by 2022, the first quarter, the business started to come in very strongly, especially from the domestic market. But then we started also seeing that some of our markets where they have Chinese rates given to agents, those Chinese rates are starting to produce already. And sales team was saying, oh, my Chinese agent is producing this much, that much. I'm like, where is your Chinese agent producing from? When all these customers who are coming in are Filipinos. They're locals. Why are the Chinese agents selling to them? So I went to some of these Chinese agent sites and started doing test bookings. And all these bookings started coming out as, already, it's all wholesalers. And it's a big, big, big mess, right? So one day, could not take it anymore because you see a disparity from Agoda. And then you send the screenshots to Agoda and say, why are you selling this rate? You have not been given this rate. You should be selling at this pricing. Because I give you this pricing. You're selling 10% cheaper than that. Oh, that's because Booking.com is selling at this price. Then I go to Booking.com and I ask them, why are you selling at this price? They say, oh, because Expedia is selling this price. Go to Expedia and ask them, why are you selling this price? Well, that's because Agoda is selling that price. So they were all putting it on each other. So one day we said to each other, we took a collective decision in the corporate office, only at the revenue management and e-commerce level. We did not inform to anybody else. We said, let's do this. This is the hotel where we see the most parity, close all channels one after the other, based on one strike policy. So pre-COVID, we used to do a 3-strike policy. 3-strike policy was, number one, you send them a small email with screenshots and all that. Number two, send them a warning letter. Number three, close them out for 30 days. But in this case, I said, everybody, no need to send warnings. Do a test booking. If Agoda, Expedia, anybody has that problem, close them. So one strike, we started closing. The number one to close was, I think, Booking.com. Number two was Expedia. Fortunately, most of the bigger wholesalers, the ones who distribute, like Hotel Beds, GTA, Mickey Travel, DOTW, all these guys are also managed by central e-commerce team. Because in 2017, when all these problems started, the test bookings, most of those bookings were coming from there. So we took all of that from the sales teams and put it under one umbrella. So we were able to close all of them. I think within a period of 6 days of that week, we started it on a Monday. By Friday evening, I think, or Saturday morning, we closed out every online channel which was there. Now, what happened with that? I'm sure you're going to ask me that
That's
question.
the question, because a lot of hoteliers are thinking, man, if I closed all of my e-commerce channels, if I closed all of my OTAs, oh my gosh. So tell us what happened.
I know at the Direct Booking Summit, DBS, I showed them step by step what happened, right? I think it's a podcast, so it will be difficult for me to show on that. But I'll just give the basic idea of what happened. Over that first week, I think from the time we closed Booking.com to the end of that, I think we lost close to 65 to 70% of our online revenue for that week. So Even our brand business, which was, I think at that time, our brand was doing 40% of the total online revenue for that hotel. And rest of the 60% was coming from the OTAs. The brand went down to 28% or even. So obviously, we were saying that even the brand went down. And then second week, we started that the brand started to go up. Brand started to go up to 38, 40% by week two. So that means we got back that demands. But there you start seeing that billboard effect, right? Because that's where I also tell everybody in the group as well as any hoteliers that at the end of the day, as an independent hotel company or even someone who's running smaller hotels, you cannot manage to be without that distribution. You still need the OTAs because you need that billboard effect. Because what happens is that when people look for you, look for, let's say, hotels in Boracay, and then they look at all the hotels and then they see two interesting hotels, and one of them is yours, for example. They go to TripAdvisor and check it out. Then after that, they will go to your own website and check it out, whether you're running a special promotion or something like that. And if they don't find anything good there, that is the time they will go back and book on their best channel, which could be anything, right? So that's why you did the billboard effect. So I know by the end of the second week, on the last day of the second week, on that Saturday, we almost reached 50% of the total online business. The third week, when we closed entire everything, we reached almost 70% of the online revenue we got back. And everything of that 70% came on our own brand website, which also meant that we had to also increase our ads. So we had to make sure that our Google ads, our Facebook ads, our Instagram ads, everything was at its maximum. So that gave us the picture that if you are able to penetrate in your ads, make sure that people are able to see your hotel when they are looking for it, you are able to do retargeting to them, then in that case, you have a chance to get that business. That's number one. Number two, obviously, we, we did a study, right? And I think it's a study also done by people like Triptease and all that. And it's something which has found that 50 to 60% of the business which is undercut. That means every time somebody looks for your hotel and then they see a rate being undercut, 60% of the time that undercut is between 5 to 7% only. So then I started looking at it like this. Why not make sure that your brand website is always at 5 to 7% gap to all the OTAs? So automatically give the OTAs 5 to 7% higher rates and keep your brand at that level. So automatically 60% of your major problem, you're able to resolve it immediately. That was number one. Number two, which is something which I did not knew until 2022. I learned it recently, is that you cannot look at every disparity as same. The reason why I say it, when there is a disparity on Agoda, when there's a disparity on Expedia versus Booking.com, you have to look at each one of them in a different way because you have to see when you get the most disparity on Booking.com, is that the time that you lose the most business on direct, or is it when on Expedia or on Agoda? So after that study, we found out that, for example, when Trip.com or Agoda were showing disparity, same percentage of disparity versus Booking.com. Booking.com, if there is a disparity, there's an 80% chance that your direct business will be affected.
Interesting.
But when it's on Trip.com and Agoda, it's only, I think, 30 or 40%.
So that has to do with website traffic, right? That has to do with eyes. Is that your assumption there?
I think it's got to do with which one of these agents has the most trust with the consumers.
Okay, there you go. So, yeah, okay.
Yes,
Makes
absolutely.
sense. So I'm
Yes.
curious, you said that you increased your marketing spend. So in fact, you shifted the cost of sale, right? You went away from commissions and you decided to move that over into more of a direct marketing, which nowadays Google, Facebook, Instagram, these are channels that, even 10 years ago might not have been that effective, right? The OTA was really the only show in town. And of course, billboard effect was huge then. Now I think less so. I definitely understand what you're saying, but I'm curious of how that stacked up, that increased marketing spend stacked up as compared to the commissions that you were paying before. Was it about the same? Was it less? Like, what was your experience there?
I would say it's around only 40 to 50% of the total spend on the commissions before that.
And when you're talking about millions in commissions, that's significant.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's significant because yes, especially if you are running one of the luxury properties, I would say that in some of our luxury properties, we could do on Google search and display ads, we could do 30 times our ROI. So every $100 spent, you could make $3,000. It becomes more difficult for us in smaller properties with a smaller ADR. So obviously, you have to make that balance out, especially if you're running a group. Automatically, you have to really balance it out in such a way that you cannot go overboard with properties where the ADR is very low. But with properties where your ADR is very high, the more direct business you can get, the better. There's some hotels where our single booking, one booking could be worth $1,000 sometimes, but $2,000. If your $2,000 booking, you're paying 15%. That's the lowest you can say, right? 15% commission. That's $300 you spend on commissions. Do you think you need $300 to generate that one booking online?
That's crazy. So Revinate obviously has an email marketing CRM platform, and I know that I'm not sure if you use the CRM, but the point I was going to make is that our most savvy hotel groups use the guest data that they have in their own CRM to find lookalike bookers across Facebook and Instagram. So these are folks that you already know of, you already know their preferences, and that's just one way. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat in getting those direct bookings, but that was one of the more clever things that we've seen because it's a flat fee for the platform. It's not commission based, so you can get more and more creative. But it's definitely very curious, particularly with high ADRs, of how expensive the one booking can be.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So any last comments? It sounds like what I'm taking from you is if you're going to do something like this, you have to be patient, you have to be brave and be patient. You have to be able to ride the waves. Are there any other pieces of advice that you would give to a hotelier that's sitting out there thinking, I think I might give this a try. One shot and you're out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last thing I would really say is that, well, which I believe in myself, is that always give your customers the reason to book direct. Maybe I can end with one of my last trips, right? I had a small family trip recently where I was staying for a few nights. And then I thought, next 2 nights, I will go and extend somewhere else. So I went around the city, right? I walked around. There were some nice hotels nearby, some 4 stars, some 5 stars, some luxury ones. I went to all of them, right? I walked in as a walk-in and I said, oh, tomorrow for 2 nights, I'm looking for this suite or room or a club floor room or something. And before I went in, right, I did not just walk in. I went online, I checked them out, and I also checked their rates on Agoda because Agoda is very prominent in that city. And then I went in and I asked them all, so what's the rate? All of their rates were at least 25 to 30% more expensive than what was on Agoda. And when I said to them, and almost everybody I said to them like this at the front desk, oh, but I can buy this on Agoda. I showed them my phone at this price. Oh yes, if you are a member on Agoda, you get a special.
I know this is a podcast, so I wish people could see my face. It's Wow. So driving loyalty to an OTA instead of to your own property while you're standing in the property.
Yes. And the best part is I ended up booking my stay at Agoda for the extension nights. I went, stayed there. They still treated me as a VIP. No need to be booking direct. Maybe if I had booked directly, maybe they would have let me open the champagne, but I don't know. But then when I was checking out, they gave me the bill. I looked on top and just to see which company it was where I booked from, and it was not Agoda.
Oh,
It was
wholesaler.
MG Pet Bank.
Here you go.
So basically, that rate did not even come from Agoda. It came from a pet.
So, and that owner probably ended up paying north of 30% on that booking between the discount, the upgrade, the commission. So there you go. All right. Well, hopefully the owner's not aware that you were there. So thanks so much, Sunish. This has been a very informative discussion. So if our listeners are interested in learning more about Chroma Hospitality, where should they go? What's the URL?
Well, they can go to www.chromahospitality.com.
Fantastic. Yeah. Beautiful properties in the Philippines. You heard it here first, and book direct. Thank you so much for the discussion today. I loved it.
Thanks, Karen. Have a nice day.
Thank you for listening to the Hotel Moment podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe for more content. For more information, head to hotelmomentpodcast.com. The Hotel Moment podcast is presented by Revinate and produced by Make More Media.